The biggest problems coaches and agencies have is sharing updates with their clients, because most platforms don't have what's known as role level security, being able to create one sole database but only share parts of that database with the client. Today, I'm going to share the solution with you with building a client portal inside of Notion and using Softr as the actual host for that client platform. These are all secure in the back end as well, so you don't have to worry about clients getting access to something that they shouldn't be. In this video, I'll show you how to connect them, how to get it started, and all the capabilities that it has. If you're also wanting to become consistent with content in your business, I've built a full content planner that you can copy directly into your business. The first link will be in the description. Right, I'm going to build this from scratch. You're just going to see it step by step of what I'm doing and sort of what I'm thinking when it comes to this. And I'm going to take you through how this should look and how you want this to look, because Softr is really powerful and other apps that can do this are really powerful too. But this gives you a whole other level of client delivery that most people don't think of, and most people probably aren't willing to put in the work in order to get there. So Softr is an app. You can get a free trial for it. I've just got a new one to be able to show you sort of what's going on and how you can actually build this out. And if you're wanting to just easily get started with it, you can instantly connect data sources. So if you want to connect data sources, you simply connect the data source, you choose which data source you're wanting, and then you go on to connect it. If you've never connected anything before, I promise you it's really easy. If we're clicking Notion as an example, it's just going to take you to a page. And then inside of that page, it's going to ask you, okay, from your workspace, which pages would you like to share with Softr? If you want to go through one by one, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to do all those stuff, it's pretty simple and it's pretty straightforward for you to do. Because once you've connected your databases, you can then do more things with it and you can actually implement it into here. We're going to come to the apps area. There's a few things that we need to run through, and I've got a checkbox of things that I'm going to take you through so that I stay on track and make sure that we're getting through it. But first and foremost, what we're wanting to understand is in Notion and in most platforms like ClickUp, Monday, all of that sort of stuff, they don't have natively what is called role level security. Now, an easy breakdown of this is essentially if we have this database right here of Craig, George, and Andrew, and if I wanted to share this database with them, I couldn't share just this role with Andrew. I would have to share all of the database with them because there's no ability for me to separate those using a secure function. There's real intricate ways around it, but we're not here to make something crazy. We're here to make something simple for us, that we can have all of our data in one place and our clients can see the relevant data that they need in another. And it also means that they don't have to go through a whole bunch of steps in order to make sure that it's secure and all of that sort of stuff, because Softr handles all the back end with that side of things. Airtable also offer this with interfaces, but they are also really expensive. Like you have to buy 15 outright to begin with, and it starts at £150 a month, and it will continue to rise as you do that for more interfaces that you're using. Softr as well is pretty much the same, most of these apps that do that. But if you are looking for native role level security, maybe something like Supabase would do it. But again, there are other platforms out there that really do struggle with this. Most of the more common ones don't actually have this. What you want to do is you want to set up your two databases. So the ones that I'm going to use today, just as a simple showcase, is I'm going to be using the client database as the way to differentiate who is seeing the data. And then I'm going to use the tasks database to then relate it to who the task is actually for. So I'm just going to connect a few of these right now. I'll put the majority onto Andrew for what he's doing, but we're going to be linking this task database for them to see inside of Notion, or inside of Softr, sorry. And they are not going to be able to see Craig's or George's. Andrew's only going to be able to see his, and then these can actually be updated inside of Notion for you as well, meaning that they can update what's going on inside of here and know what's happening. If you're wanting to add specific pages to connect to Softr, if you've done what I had done before, you can simply come up to the right-hand side and you can come down to connections, and then you can add a connection, which again, you can choose Softr to do that and follow the steps, or by this point, you could potentially add the connection that we've already made within Softr right here. Okay, now that we've got the setup ready to go, we are now able to start creating. Now, there are templates inside of Softr itself. You'll see there's templates here for customer profiles and all of that sort of stuff. I'm going to show you a really easy one to begin with. You've got a client onboarding portal as well. There's tons of things that you can actually do here. So there's some ones at the top that you can lose, client portals, dashboards, all of that sort of stuff. But we're just going to create an app to begin with, or create a new one, and it's just going to be a blank screen. Now, again, obviously we're going to be using Notion, and that's the data that we're wanting to use inside of the app. Now that we're in here, we've got a fair few options. It builds as a kind of blank canvas of what we're looking to do. It's sort of like Notion as well, where you have the ability to control quite a lot. Most of it is just drag and drop, and it's really, really easy to do. We'll keep the welcome logged in user at the top. Again, we can just use that as sort of code, and it means that when someone logs in to whoever the logged in user is, it's going to give them their name rather than something else. And in this bit down below, you're going to be able to see some sources that we can connect directly to this actual space. Now, we're going to delete this just to begin with so that we can have a little bit more room to work with. But if you do click the add the block function, we have a fair few things that we can do in here. We've got dynamic blocks, which are things like lists, grid views, table views. You can get conditional forms, quick links, all of that sort of stuff. And then we can dive deeper if you're wanting things like Kanban boards or charts. You can also add these in. There's some organizational stuff. There's comments that you can add in as well. So there are a fair few things. When we're looking at static stuff, we've got things like heroes, CTAs. This is because some people use this as an actual website platform. Others might not use it as that. But if you're using it as a client portal, you're probably not going to have it. And then finally, what we've got inside of the container function, which I actually really like, I really like the use of the tab containers, as you can set these into tab containers themselves with what's actually going on. So originally what we're going to do, we're just going to set up a tab one to begin with, and we're going to name the tab one tasks to complete. So this is just going to give us the ability for the clients to see exactly what tasks they need to complete and what things they are wanting to do. For tab 2, I'll just delete this for now. We don't really need to worry about it. We can add a tab later. And you'll also see on the right-hand side, we have the ability to show visibility, the styles, all of that sort of stuff. So what we're going to select this visibility for is the logged in users. And it means that this sort of locks itself for just the logged in users with what's going on. You also have the ability for device visibility too, which allows you to see whether or not you want to show that on the tablet, phone, all of that sort of stuff. This is a really good way if you're designing two sort of views that you're wanting clients to see. If you're building an app itself, then this is a really good way to dive into it a little bit further. But we don't need to worry about that just at this moment in time. Now, in order to connect the clients that we are wanting to link to here, because obviously we're wanting the client database, this one that we've got, to actually be linked to this space, we're going to use the users feature up the top. So what we've got here is the data that we're using inside of this app, and then the users that are a part of this. So obviously here we've got the test user example, but what we're going to do instead is we're actually going to sync with a data source. Now in this data source, we're going to use clients for YouTube because that's the one that we are using. We're going to get all records, and we could map the fields if we were wanting to as well. So the email here, we're just going to map the email in that area. Now what this is going to do is it's going to give us the option of ensuring that we are getting the logged in user right with the email that is being synced with the data. The avatar we don't need, and then created time, last seen item, all that sort of stuff. We don't need to worry about that too much at the moment in time. But what we'll do is we'll save and sync this data. And once this data is sort of synced itself, it's going to be showing the 3 users that we had before. So we've got the Craig, Andrew, and George. This then gives us the ability to start using Softr in a more powerful way, because each individual user has related databases inside of Notion itself. And because the client is going to be linked to the user and to those testing things that we're doing, this gives us the ability to link anything that we have related to that client to their Softr page that they can only see because we're using that relational database. So now you'll see here, we've got the business emails, we've got their names, and we've got all the other data with what is going on. So we've got everything related to their user groups, status, if they've been invited, all of that sort of stuff, if it's synced, last seen time, if we're wanting to add that. We can add more data in here if we are wanting to add more data. But for now, we don't really need to. It's not necessary. So we're going to delete that test user, and we're going to just type delete so that we don't need it. Or we actually have to type delete forever. That's kind of crazy, but fair play. So we've got the deletion of that client. We don't need to actually see those anymore. And now we've got them. Now, if you want to, you can add user groups. So there is your ability to create certain user groups on a condition. So if an active client is active, obviously you could have active clients, non-active clients, you could have high ticket clients, you could have lower ticket clients. If you're wanting to do this based on certain things, you could select them. So I'll just use the roadmap as an example. If I'm wanting someone who's at stage 3 to just have that, I can have specific user groups to be synced to specific places. This is a really good way if you've got separation of different people who are in different tiers of your organization or whatever they pay for. We've also got data restrictions, so you can add some restrictions with what's going on in specific places. So if you wanted to add your own restrictions, then you can start adding them, of viewing, creating, editing. If you add a restriction, if you add an editing restriction, don't allow users to create new records, all of that sort of stuff, you can also add restrictions. And then here as well, we've got some notifications. So templates to send for invitations when you give those invitations out, one-time codes if you're wanting to give them those. If they need to reset their password, you can come into here and you can actually say, like, you recently requested your password, please use this link to reset it. So the kind of usual stuff with what we've got going on. And then again, authentication, we've got passwords, Google sign-ons, a magic link, and the signups being domain restricted, and log out users after every session and all of that sort of stuff. So there is ways that you can really protect yourself too. And that's one of the most important things with client data, especially as you start to scale. You want to protect the data as best as you can. And if you're not doing that, then you are going to cause yourself a lot of headaches and a lot of problems in the future. So I would go through this one by one of data restrictions and user groups and stuff like that if you're wanting to separate those. But again, just for what we're doing right now, we're not going to do that. You can see their email and password here with the authentication method and the creation of it. And from this point, we are ready to go with actually designing this interface to show what we were looking to do with those particular clients. I realized I had my headphones on like a loser when I wasn't listening to anything. So we're now on to the actual design of the Softr app as a whole. What we're wanting to do is we're wanting to have the client basically seeing the tasks that they need to complete and just us moving from there. You can connect as many items as you want to this. This is merely just me showing what this is capable of doing. You can connect things like if you're a video editor and you're doing edits for your clients, you could do things with your client calls. So all the calls that you've had with the clients, you can give them access to those. Again, the more that you connect, because you'll see here, I'm pretty sure we've done this anyway with the previous video, is we've got tasks in here within the tabs. So there are other ones that you can do. If I maybe show you my training facility that I use with clients, what I've got in here is a little bit different. It's a little bit more to it, where inside here we've got things like the client calls and the projects that we're working on and any client testimonials that they've given. So this Softr app not only allows you to do that, but you can connect buttons and forms inside of here that can ping into other places. There's just multiple things that you can do with this that work really, really well. Let's now go into the tasks to complete area. And we're going to just have this as maybe something like a list at the moment, as it will be easy to showcase with what's going on. Now, down the right-hand side, again, as we said, this is the place where we are going to have the ability to connect everything that's going on. Inside of this space, we are connecting the database with what we're wanting to do. So with this one, obviously we're looking for the tasks for YouTube. That's what we're wanting to do. Now, at this point, all of the tasks are going to come up because we've not got any conditional formats that we're using. Now, the awesome thing about Softr is it's then going to allow us to set some conditional filters that you can see here that can then set aside only tasks that are related to that particular client. So you'll see here we've got clients for YouTube that is relational databases in here to be able to do that. And if you want me to shoot a video, by the way, of creating like databases relations and how to actually do that, then let me know. But I'm wanting to show this off of just how it's actually possible. Inside of the condition area, we're then wanting to find the ability to connect those things. So what we're then going to do is the clients for YouTube, because that's the connection, includes any of, and then we're going to have the logged in user. And what we're going to select in this space is we could select the email or the name. So we're going to select the name just for the sake of this. And what this means is that when we're on the preview mode, we are then going to be able to select like what user sees what. And I'll show that a little bit later on, just purely because I want to actually have a little bit more of what's happening here. Inside of the sort, just kind of like anything, you can sort these by like date or due date and all that sort of stuff if you're wanting to. Now, I'm going to sort this by due date just for the sake of it, and I'm going to have 8 items total on the list. Obviously, as you can see, we can't actually have much information in here at the moment. We've just got tasks and not started. There's not much to it. And this is where we're coming on to the differences of what we're adding with like the title and stuff like that. So I'm going to put in here, this is your tasks. and then I'm going to some like check off to complete. Now, this can obviously be a variety of things. We can change this later on, but I'm just wanting to show what's possible here and what you can actually do. Now, in the main section is the main area at the top. And what I really like about Softr actually is they have a secondary section where you can put things in there if you're wanting to. So you can actually put the page content in here too, and you can add a few more things as well. So you can add the complete and the priority and stuff like that. You do have the ability to have those all there and actually improve those, make those better. What we're going to do is we're going to remove this secondary feature at the start, and we've got the assign to, the status, all of that good stuff. We'll keep that to begin with, and we'll just leave as is. We maybe put the due date, but we'll see where that sort of actually lies. Now, in the secondary section, I'm going to add this secondary section in, and we're going to remove some of the things. So we're going to remove the texts, and in this space, we may have something like assigned to, and we may also have priority. And this is just giving us a little bit more information of what's going on and what we're actually looking to achieve with this. We see here, we've got things like the high priority, low priority, medium, all of that sort of stuff. What you can also do with this is you have the ability to edit some of these. So inside of the tag, you can actually have the colors to be the ones that are inside of the palette itself. So we've obviously got high, low, with what we're wanting to do. So you can do as defined in the data source as well, which means, again, that you can copy it directly from Notion. And therefore, if you're looking from Notion into Softr, then it is the exact same as to what you're actually doing. Within the search bar, you can search for things like tasks, assigned to, or status. You can keep these if you're wanting to. So in here, you can select particular filters. In this space, obviously, we've got the sync with source as done, progress, and not started. And that's what we can have as an options. And the same as the tasks, we've got here filtering by tasks by that particular person. So what we're going to do for this filter is we're going to filter it by the status as complete. And we'll actually spell that right. But the filter by is going to be the status. And then obviously we've got the options here of syncing with the source. So in this space, we're going to remove the done because we don't actually want to see it. All right, now that we've designed the sort of content of what we're seeing so far, I'm going to show you this in two different ways because we can show this in a table view as well. A table view can look a little bit cleaner if you're wanting to do that. So if we show the table layout of what it actually is, you can sort of see a little bit of a different view of what you're actually going for. But there's multiple ways that we can actually see this and use this in any way that we want. I'm just showing the list view at the moment so you can understand how this actually works and how this is moving forward. Now, what we're going to do now is come into the action space. Then there's two things that we're going to add in this area where it's top bar buttons and an item button. Now, what we're going to have in the top bar button is the ability to sort of add a task in that they want completed. Because obviously if you're doing tasks or you're working on projects with people, you want them to be able to sort of say like, hey, we are wanting this added, or I'm seeing these tasks, we maybe haven't thought about this, and maybe that's something after you've done. So in the top bar, we're going to add a record. It's just going to be like maybe add a task. That's what you could have in this top bit. And from this area, you can then start to add particular fields into your own Notion. So if we were doing a task itself, we could have the task of what we're doing, and it could also be something like due date. And then the other one, it could be something like the status. It doesn't have to be the case for all of this, but this is allowing them to select the due date with what's going on. So task, obviously we've got a placeholder here of client task. We could have that as something on that front. And again, you can add a whole bunch of things in here if you have something like the details of it, if you have something like a description that you want the client to give, this can be a great way to do it. So it means they're going to be able to select this, and it also means they're going to be able to allow multi-selects, or you can allow status, or you can have something that's required for what's going on. So obviously we've got the sync with sources, and that is going to allow them to add their own task into this area. Now, inside of the item buttons, we want them to be able to basically say when something has been complete. So when we're doing this, we're going to use the one-click update, and you'll now see on the actual table itself, we've got the update button. So we're going to have this as complete. And then inside of this field, we are going to have the status, and we're going to replace the existing value, and we're actually going to have the custom value for this. It's a little bit annoying that you can't currently just select what you're wanting to do, but as long as you put it the same as what the status is in here, which is done, it will update into the relevant area with what you're looking to do. So we'll add the done with the custom value, and that will be good with the update, meaning that the client can actually select when things have been complete if it's them that it's actually assigned to. Because what you can also do inside of Notion as well is that if it's assigned to a particular person, you could have the status as assigned to client or assigned to the person that you're working with. And that means that, again, you can make sure that only those are shown up in here if you were selecting your filters for what you were doing. Because as you can see here, we can filter them by specific areas of task and status of when things have been complete, or if they are adding one or more. Now, when you come to styles, again, this is really just about you and the way that you like to view things. If you want to change anything, if you want to make anything work the way that you have it, then you most certainly can. But this gives us the ability to break down exactly what's going on for our clients and the tasks that they need to complete. Now, obviously for this one right here, I'm going to actually remove the task filter itself. But for the status, we've currently got that the filters by status with the in progress and the not started. So what we then want to do is we want to add a second tab. And this is where we're going to come back to those tabs that we were using before. And we're going to add the completed tasks. And this just means if a client has wanting to see all the tasks that they've completed, then it gives them ability to do it. Now, inside of this, we're actually going to just use a table to show a different form or a different way of seeing these databases. So again, we're going to link the tasks for YouTube, and this is going to give us the ability to link those. The same conditions as before. The clients for YouTube is going to include any of the logged in user, and then we're going to select the name, and this is setting the condition for what's actually going on. The default sort, again, due date from A to Z. And we're actually going to put the due date from Z to A just purely because we want to see the ones they've completed most recently. And inside of the content, again, we are going to have maybe something like the URL hidden. We're going to have the email hidden. We don't need to have all of those. The assigned to, obviously, we'll just keep these for now with what's actually going on. And this just gives us the ability to overview what's actually happening and what we are doing with it. In the search bar at the top, obviously you can search by task, assigned to it, and status with what we're doing. And inside of the filters, we are going to filter this status so that the status itself is only just the done. And that is, again, going to allow us to only see the particular ones that have been complete. And it allows us to just easily select, again, Z to A with selecting those of done. And that is our filter. Inside of the actions, you definitely could add some buttons in here. Maybe if they made a mistake with completing the done or they were wanting to change something else, then you definitely could do that. But this just gives us the ability to see the completed tasks and the tasks complete. What we're going to do is we're going to preview this just to start with. As I always think it's important to check how things are going and how things are moving forward. I'm actually building this as you're sort of seeing it. And what you'll be able to see is when you preview this, you're going to be able to click on the individuals, the users that have been synced with that data that you've done before. So if we see the tasks here, scheduled dentist appointment, onboarding call, and also call for stage, we've got all of these inside of the tasks itself with what's going on. So we've got the in progress tasks or the not started tasks. And inside of here, we can select the done function if we're wanting to be able to see the ones that have been completed. Now, if you're wanting the data itself to not show as the sort of filters in here where you can see the in progress and you just want to see them as the actual tasks, you can do this inside of the source itself where you can have these specific status with what you're wanting to do. So instead of actually using that drop down, you're able to do it here with this instead. So inside of the tab 2, what we'll do is we'll select this condition so that only the status is done. And that just allows us to separate those ones. And I'll show you what that looks like as we complete those tasks with what's going on. Now, one of the important things to always do is to make sure that you're previewing it as you go along, because you might make mistakes. I've just done this as I'm actually building it. So of course there could be mistakes that I would make. Now, what we've got in here is we're previewing George's one. So if we come back to the actual tasks itself, we can see task 1 for George, and he is in progress at the moment. If we look at any of the completed tasks, we'll see, if we come into here, we'll see that there shouldn't be any completed tasks because we haven't done any as of yet. But we can now see that we can add a task or complete a task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to half of the screen, and then we're going to add the other one to the other half of the screen so that we can see what sort of happens as we actually do this. Now, let's say George, for example, requested a task to complete the YouTube video. He could then come into here, select the due date, which could be for Friday of this week. And then in the status, it's obviously going to be not started. So if we add this, we can now see that inside of the Notion itself, the complete the YouTube video has now came into this space. And we can see that we've got a YouTube video that's actually come up. Now, some of the things that we would probably want to add is obviously the clients for YouTube being added right away. and a potential assignee. So if it was going to be assigned to anyone in particular, that's maybe what you would want to do from that starting point. But this is a great way to actually test what's going on and how things are moving. Again, if we select complete, this should disappear and should go into the completed tasks. But we're seeing as of right now, that's not actually happening. So we're not seeing George's completed tasks. However, inside of that learning area, we have actually completed it, because now if we come onto the filters and we have the status as complete, we'll now see George's one of the task one that is actually being complete. So whenever you're building these things, it's always good to test and go back and forth and seeing how things are actually moving forward. You'll now see in George's one it's updated, so it just simply needed an update for what you were doing and what we were moving forward with. Here you can open and change the actual size of them. But this is a good way of knowing what you're working towards and how you're actually producing what you're doing when you're moving forward with that. You've now seen it in two different ways of how we can lay out these tasks database. And you can also set things like completing or even adding tasks in particular. There's so many things that you can add in here that could work in your favor. So in this category area, it could be things like book it in a call. And there's tons of stuff that you could add inside these. In these categories, you could have pages, you could have things for them to do, you could have tasks, onboarding videos to watch. There's a ton of things that you can add in their own client portal, but this gives you a place to keep everything inside of one client area without having to create new databases for every single client or use a software that you've never used before. I say that and you're using Softr, but you get my point. There's also other cool things that you can do inside of Softr as well. As at the bottom on the actions page, you can actually open a particular details page that you create specifically for clients to look at. So if we open the details page, you can actually create detailed pages for your particular clients, meaning that inside of the pages that they open, you can then display those particular tasks. So again, we're going to just include the tasks for that logged in user and being their particular name. And then you can add certain conditions. So inside of the content on the top section, you could have the level of priority with what's going on. And then inside of section 1, you could have whatever you would like in here. So if there's particular URLs or files or images they need to look at, or even things like the due date of when things are due, you can look at the status of how things are getting on, the level of priority that this is set to. You can actually have them in here to do those. You can add particular sections in here and add particular blocks. And you can also add comments into this space where you can leave particular comments or comments from your clients to basically see how things are getting on. So that now means for every time that you're setting up pages, you can have people leaving comments in those particular areas or editing particular things that you want them to edit. The possibilities with this are really endless. And obviously if we come to the home, you'll see the number of templates that you can actually create, because you can see all of the previews with what's going on. Even if I use this template as a preview and I'll show you exactly what I mean, you can have things like your invoices, you can have things like your files that you're sharing with them. You can link this to multiple different platforms if you do that, as you'll be able to see obviously the projects that are going on here, the active projects, potential outstanding tasks that are going on, unpaid invoices, open invoices. But this just gives you the ability to create a client portal that is only using one database itself, but you are able to give all of your clients the ability to see what's actually going on with what you are delivering. Now, if you're wanting to share this with obviously the people that you are working with, then you would need to publish the invite and then send the invite to the 3 users. You would basically just get them an invite themselves. You can also go to the users tab itself and be able to send those things across to them if you're wanting to do that. And you can add particular users from here as well if you're importing certain names or data types. This just allows you to continuously duplicate what you've already created. And it also just allows you to easily see who's got access, when they've last seen, and everything going on. Softr is really powerful with what you can do, and I've been messing around with it probably for the last few weeks just to see what it's capable of and what you can build. I know a lot of people have actually asked about having a dedicated client space that communication and also updates for those clients are really easy to use and function. So this is one of the best ways that you can actually do that. If you're wanting to improve your content and keep it consistent across platforms, I built a full template on Notion dedicated just for that. I've got the first link down in the description for you to go and download it. And I know the video on the screen will help you more with your systems.